What's going on, everyone? It's Sheena, aka Sheenapreneur, your favorite veteran. If you're new here, welcome. Today I want to talk to you about how to transition out of your job. For those who don't know, I started my government contracting journey while I was still working full-time, and I want to get into how I was able to do that without losing my mind right after the intro. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Here on the Sheenapreneur channel, I share information about government contracting, veteran business content, and other business tips. So for those who don't know, I started my government contracting company in 2017. I transitioned out of real estate. I was a landlord. I flipped and I wholesaled, which was very, very challenging. And I did that from 2014 to around 2017, 2018-ish. So I had a little bit of an overlap when it came to me starting government contracting. So hence why, if you've seen any of my other videos, I talk about how I changed my business name because my business name was very heavily set on real estate. And so I ended up hating that name. And so, but I still won three contracts with that old business name. So that's beside the point. So I was transitioning out of real estate. I was still working full time. I was active duty Army. I was actually a reservist who was on active duty, and I had been pretty much on active duty from 2008 to 2019. So I had about 2 years where I was working completely full time with the uniform on every single day. I was a signal warrant officer. So, you know, I was doing a lot. I know a lot of people are like, oh, warrant officers don't do nothing. Yes, we do. So I was a signal warrant officer. So I was in IT. I was doing IT all day, every day, knowledge management, SharePoint, you name it. I was doing it. So I had some overlap with this, and really there was no real reason why I kind of just switched over to that. I just felt like, hey, why not? I can do this. And so when I realized I didn't really want to do real estate and sold all my properties, I only had one property left. At that point, I was hearing about the government contracting thing. And then I'm like, oh, this is intriguing. You know, I'm a veteran. Since I was a reservist, I had a DD-214 when I came off of active duty, way back. And even since then, I had been on and off active duty a few times. So I was able to have a veteran status. So I was a veteran-owned company that could get my service disabled veteran-owned certification. I'm woman-owned. And then, at the time it was like minority-owned, but minority is not really on the federal list, but it doesn't matter. That's not the point of this video. So anyway, what I was doing was, okay, let me just start this thing and do it the right way and read and study. And back when I started learning about government contracting, which I really started learning about government contracting around like 2014, 15, 16, something like that. I want to say really it was 2016 when I really started trying to figure out how to do everything. I was still kind of heavy in real estate, but I was also just learning on the side about government contracting. And so as I started learning more, then I was like, boop, to, of course, real estate. The real estate money wasn't fast enough. And really with wholesaling, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough money. You might get a hit every now and then, but this wasn't for me. I was too volatile to be a landlord for real. I'm still a landlord now, but it's one house in the house that I live in. That's it. I didn't want to have multiple properties where even with a property manager, it did not work for me. So again, I'm going through all of these things and I'm still working full time, still a wife, still a mom. Kids are in 1,000 activities. And then I have to have a personal life, right? I'm very serious about my self-care. And so in order not to lose my mind, I made sure that I set up very specific goals for myself. So one of the major things was to write down exactly what I wanted. And now, for those who may not have heard the story about me, I've been doing some sort of side hustle since the age of 12. So I've always been an entrepreneur, always had some kind of business going on. I've had over 30 something jobs in my life, even with the military for 20 years. I still had jobs here and there, So I'm just like, I guess a workaholic or whatever they call it. I don't call it a workaholic. I just call like being super ambitious. Okay. So with that, I was still like trying to figure this thing out, and I wanted to do it the right way because I'm like, now we're talking about real life stuff, like real, paperwork and the government. And I don't want to play with that. I work for the government. I know how it works. And so with that, the first thing that introduced me to it really was like War Dogs. And I didn't really understand what I was looking at the time, but they showed the website where to go. I went to that website. It wasn't sam.gov that we have now. It was called like FBO. I believe it was federal bids. I don't even remember what FBO stands for anymore. But anyway, it was a site where you go to look for federal opportunities. And that's kind of where my interest really peaked. And I started on that journey of just figuring out whatever I can. And it was dry out here on the internet. Like there was only Eric Coffee and maybe a couple of other people talking about government contracting, but it wasn't robust like it is now. Y'all didn't have me. Just saying. But even, there's a whole bunch of other YouTubers that talk about it that provide very valuable information. But there wasn't at the time when I was kind of fishing around of how to do this. So I had to do a lot of studying, a lot of reading. And of course, I'm still working full time. Still, my life has not changed as far as my kids and my spouse and my job. It was pretty demanding. And so I ended up writing down, what do I want? Okay, year one, month one, all these things in order to figure out how I can push into this market, figuring out exactly what services I want to provide. Again, I said I was doing real estate, so I had a contractor who could provide flooring services and renovation services. So I was like, well, shoot, I'll do that. That makes sense. I like that kind of stuff. And that's what got me into, originally, I think I landed on flooring contracting, and then it graduated to like facility maintenance, and now it's facility support services. Facility support services, NAICS code is 561210. You should know your NAICS code like the back of your hand, okay? You should know like your zip code. And so I was like, this fits perfectly. I like it. And it's a little versatile because like I said, I was a born entrepreneur. So I don't want to just stick to like one thing. And the facility support services, I felt like it gave me multiple things I can do, but it was still kind of like narrow and, different services, but all within the same thing. I wasn't going every which way where I'm providing daycare services and logistics and consulting and all these other things. It was still kind of narrow and I was hyper focused. I didn't want to do this like I did other businesses. I wanted to be laser focused. I wanted to be the expert of this thing instead of having my brain split in 1,000 different places. Now it still was split because of life stuff, but it wasn't as split when it came to the business. So anyway, I get into facility support services, win my first 3 contracts. But before that, when I won the first 2 on my own, I don't really believe in like New Year's resolutions, but the New Year is a good time to set goals. And so in 2018, after I won the second contract, I hadn't executed any contracts until 2019, but December 31st, 2018, I set a goal to say, okay, I'm going to take my money from my personal paycheck and hire someone to do contract writing for me. So I went through Upwork. I went through this. I went through that. Oh my God. I went through a bunch of different services that were trash. People said, I've been writing proposals for 20 years. They were still trash. It irks my spirit because people selling this dream and then you don't know that they may not be a good provider for you, but because they said they are, you go with them, you pay them all this money. But anyway, this particular person came to me from a very, very reliable source. So I trusted it and she was like, cheap, my budget, okay? And so I made a commitment to utilize her services in order to, get more information, figure out how to do contracting. And remember, I had already written my first 2. So, it wasn't like I didn't know anything. And I always suggest people, if you have never put together your own proposal, put together your own proposal at least one time so you know what right looks like when you go to if you're going to hire someone. It makes a huge difference. Just trust me on this. Okay, trust the girl on this one. So with that, I hired someone. She was super cheap. She actually won me my 3rd contract. So I was like, okay, the money is coming back. And of course, there was some that she didn't win. I had to pay her monthly. But she also helped me with that contract that she actually bid on and won for me. It was a janitorial contract. I wasn't in janitorial yet. I didn't know anything really about going after janitorial, I guess, at that point. And she really helped me really dissect certain parts of the contract because she's like, no, you need to write it this way. I had to provide her stuff still. So it wasn't like she just wrote the whole thing and I just went about my business. She's like, provide me a write-up of this, do this, do this, do this. And so that was to help me, like it was like an exercise for me. And then also it was to help her understand my business a little bit more. So that had to happen the way that it happened. And it made me, because otherwise I probably would have ignored something if I didn't understand it. I remember in that moment saying that I probably would have ignored this question if it wasn't for her. So that was a really important detail for me to ensure that I set that goal to set aside that money. And of course the money came back runneth over, because then we started executing the contract that I won. And so the money started coming in and it wasn't as painful. Another way to really, really help you transition, if you're transitioning, looking to transition, or even just how to stay sane while you're working full time and trying to do contracting, is making the time. Now, I know there's some of us out here who can't find a minute in the day. Find the minute, even if it's changing your patterns. For example, when I watch YouTube. I don't even really watch TV. I usually watch documentaries or like business stuff. So sometimes when I'm getting ready in the morning, I'll watch a YouTube video. So some people do that sitting down on the couch or laying in the bed. So that time that you're usually laying in the bed playing a game or watching YouTube, take that time to look for opportunities, or take that time to figuring out your exit plan with your job. Because I don't want to tell people to just quit their job, because I've quit my job in the past where I had a totally different business and it wasn't that good. It wasn't a good jump. It was not a leap of faith. It was a leap to hell. But that's okay. I survived. I made it. I made it back out. So I don't tell people to quit their job. But I will say, if you're going to take this seriously, to make sure that you set a specific amount of time to dedicate to this, because this can be a side hustle, absolutely could be a side hustle, but the main purpose is for this to be your full-time thing. And for you, not full-time to where it takes up all your time, but full-time to where this is your main income and you're going to have millions of dollars. Like that's the whole goal. Either 6 figures or millions, whatever your flavor is. And then you don't have to work your 9 to 5 and trade your time for money. We don't want to trade our time for money anymore. It's 2024 and that is dead. It's dead. I don't care what anybody say. I know it's like, well, I want a job for this and that's cute or whatever. I know I was a born entrepreneur and maybe I'm a little biased, but I've had 30 something jobs. So it's not like I'm afraid to work or say I can't work for anyone. I'm just saying that as far as government contracting, this is like the best way. I feel like this is one of the better ways to wealth. So I would say that take this seriously and make the time in the day. What I started doing was getting up extra early. Now, everybody's not going to do that. You have your early risers and you have your all-nighters. And so for me, since I was still working, I had to get up early. So it was no staying up late, or else I would be no good to the world the next day. So I would just get up earlier, like an hour earlier, and that would be the time for me to do. It was a great routine for me. Now, mind you, been in the military. I was in the military for 20 years, and I started this when I had about 4 years left in the military. So 15, 16 years of military, and that I complained every day getting up early. But when it came to the business, something in my mind changed and I was able to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Of course, that's not popular, but if you can just squeeze out 30 minutes in the morning just to focus on your business before everyone wakes up, before you have to get up and do your thing, a little additive to make it easier for you throughout the day. You may not have time throughout the day at lunch or after work to focus on your business. But I think that sometimes that early morning before the rest of the world gets up is a really good place to start. Now, again, like I said, I was working and I was also bidding while I was in my office working during lunch, right after work. Sometimes I would stay after work. Since I'm sitting there at the computer, I would slide over to my personal computer and start working on my business stuff, because I'm already sitting right here. I'm already in a structured environment. So when I go home, it's 100% family. So I found that worked very well for me as well. I was able to stay at work for as long as I wanted to. Nobody bothered me. I had my own office. So that was something that really, really worked out for me. And of course, my kids were older, so I didn't have to worry about picking them up. So, it's whatever your flavor is. But I would say carve out whatever you spend your time on that you usually kind of idle. take that time to focus on your business. Now, when my kids played sports, sometimes I would sit in the car and get on my laptop, have my phone as the Wi-Fi and work on a couple of things just for a few minutes to just steal some time out of the day that I wouldn't typically have. Another thing is that I touched on a little bit earlier is like your exit plan with your job. So some of us have been at our job for a long time. So, you're probably looking for an exit plan anyway. Some of us may be brand new, but whatever it is, if you just kind of backward plan the ending with your job, it makes it a lot easier than just like, oh, I'm just going to quit my job today, because it could be a little abrupt and it can be a little scary. But if you were just to plan out a year, so right now it is January 21st, 2024. So if you say, okay, by December 31st of 2024, I am going to put in my 2 weeks notice, then it's easier for you to backward plan and make your exit a little bit less rocky, because then you're giving yourself a date, a goal in mind in order to exit out of your job. And so, you got to hustle in order to, okay, I got to get these contracts. I got to get this. I got to get that. And then you watch my videos to teach you the different steps of how you can really set up your business right now in order for you to transition. It might even be a little bit earlier than December 31st. So one of my students, she said that she's giving herself like a 5-year plan. She's like, Sheena, I might need to do a plan that's a little bit sooner because she's gotten so many contracts and she's been working with me. So that may happen and that's okay. But at least if you have a goal in mind, then you can backward plan from that and you got to hustle. Sometimes putting deadlines on stuff puts a little fire under you. If you feel like you got all the time in the world, you may not do what you need to do. We know how that goes, right? Another part of that is you're like, okay, Sheena, that's all cute or whatever, but how am I going to finance this business? So some of us have 401ks. And again, yes, financing your own business can be, a lot of people are going to boo me in the comments or whatever. I don't care, because if you don't have access to capital any other way and you have a 401k plan or some other kind of retirement plan and you're dead set on this, I only want the people who are serious to hear what I'm saying for the next couple of seconds, next couple of minutes. Only if you're serious, then you take some of the money that you have stored away to invest in your business. Now, if you have a way to get to access to capital, like a line of credit, if you have other people in your family that you can get money from, if you can get a loan from a bank, a business loan from a bank, way easy, super easy, and even a personal loan, super easy, other people's money, by all means, do that. By all means, do that. But if you don't have access, you haven't built up your company, your business credit or anything yet, and maybe you might not even have good credit, really, or like shaky credit to where you can't get a large loan or you don't have a credit card that you can use, then absolutely use your money. I'm going to say this in every video. I don't care who get mad. Like, there are ways that you can use other people's money. Yes, but don't let that be the only way that you fund your business, because some people have $500,000 in their 401k and they're like, well, I don't have any business credit, so I'm not going to start my business because I need to build up my business credit, and it takes 2-3 years or whatever. It may not take 2 or 3 years, but it might. And then all that time you could have been starting your business by now. So I'm just saying, I just got to put that out there, that if you can fund your business, then that's a way for you to kind of transition out, because you have a safety net. You know that you can fund your business at least at the beginning, because I would go on to say that y'all almost never need to wait more than 60 days for payment. And that's like extreme. 60 days or more is far extreme, and you usually wouldn't have to wait that long for payment. But if you're, say, doing a staffing company or something where it's going to have a pretty big startup cost for the contract, then yeah, you may need to, it's going to be a lot of money, but then you're going to get that money back. Like, so if you're getting that money back, this is not like stock, like where you don't know what may happen. If you provide the service, you're getting paid. That's all Mary had a little lamb. Okay. That's period. You're going to get your money back. So even if you have to put $100,000 up front out of your own money, and you have that money, and it won't hurt you, it won't hurt your family, and you're getting that money back in 30 to 60 days, like, I don't see the problem. But, to each their own. You may just say, I'm never going to touch that. That's only going to be when I turn 55 or whatever the case may be. Do you? But I'm just saying that that's a way for people to kind of transition out, because it's like, I hadn't thought about using my retirement money for my business. As long as it doesn't hurt you, I would absolutely go on to say you need to do that. And I'm just going to leave it here with saying the last way to transition out of your job is to win a contract. Nothing gets you out of the job faster, boo, than to be servicing a contract. You're going to find a point where you have to make that decision. I had to make that decision. I was like kind of losing my mind. I got off of active duty 2019, and then COVID happened, and I got hired as a DOD civilian, okay? A GS 11 or 12, I can't remember. But nonetheless, I was working from home, and I was like, okay, this is great, but I still am running my business, and my business was really, really growing, employees and all that. And I'm like still tied to the military, still tied to this full-time job, even though I had that little break is what made me kind of like supercharge into government contracting even more, because I was fully focused where I had been on active duty for all this time. So it's really like a way to get you going, get your mojo going when you win a contract, because you might say, I'm going to stay here for this amount of time. But then because you won a contract, you got to make that decision. It's either stay with your job or quit. And it may be a tough decision. Like, it was tough for me. And then I eventually retired. Mine was a little unorthodox because of COVID and all that kind of stuff. But it was like, I really needed to make a decision. It was either my job or my business. I was at that point, and someone told me a long time ago, Sheena, you're gonna reach that point where you gotta make a decision. And I was like, I'm staying in the Army forever. But no, I had to. I was really, really losing it. And I didn't have enough time in the day, stressing me out. And I'm like, okay, if I weigh all these things, I can't get rid of my family, right? So it's either the job or the business. And so since the business was doing so well, I had a nest egg. I felt comfortable. Head first. Well, it wasn't even head first, because I had been running the business for a couple of years before I ended up quitting. So a contract will do it. So I say with that is to make sure that you're bidding on contracts. Make sure you're building building relationships for opportunities, because if you get that contract, even if it's not through bidding and it's through building relationships, then you might be more likely to transition out a little faster. So I just wanted to give you a little encouragement to let you know that's what your girl did. I stayed with my job for a couple of years. I even almost kind of like picked up a second job with the DOD civilian job. Went from active duty to DOD civilian, all while I was still running an active business with employees, with contracts, doing stuff. And I had to make that transition out. So it's a scary thing for some of us. But then what's beautiful about it is once you do finally transition over to having this business, and you, especially when you have subcontractors and you have somebody managing your employees and all that kind of stuff, it makes life so much easier. And your life itself is going to be easier. Like, you're not going to have to be in traffic. You're not going to have to be shackled to your computer for your job every day. And it gives you more that liberation. It gives you that excitement of being a business owner and like building a legacy and being able to pass something down if that's what you want to do, and providing jobs for people. That was my main thing, is I wanted to provide jobs for people. So that was like something that really fulfilled this, besides the money, because the money is the money and that's it. But it was really, really a great thing for me personally, and someone who's a workaholic, you know what I mean? So some of us are like, I gotta work. You'll work over here too. You just gotta build up your business the right way. So make sure you check out my other videos on how to build the business up. I teach about building business. I don't just teach about just getting a contract and then you go about your business. I teach about building your business in order for you to sell it. Period. That's what I teach in my course, and also in all my videos. I'm always going to allude to you having this as a real business and the government is your client. So in the course, I teach about, if you're brand newbie, how to set up your business. That includes like choosing a business name, registering with your Secretary of State, etc. I teach about federal contracting, local contracting, corporate contracting, and also I have something for my veterans, all the programs that I've attended and given reviews on that, and also some things that are freebies for veterans. And make sure that you join our GovCon Moneymakers Circle community. It's like a Facebook group outside of Facebook. We have like 400 people in there right now. It's crazy. So make sure you sign up for that. It's 100% free. And if you want more information about the course, leave a comment in the comment section if you have a video that you want me to just kind of touch on or elaborate on, or something that I did in another video where you want me to elaborate on, or this video you want me to elaborate on. Make sure you leave it in the comments, please. And if you feel like this video is valuable, please share it with your tribe. Share it with somebody who you think might find value in this video. So love y'all. Until next time, it's your favorite veteran.